Hello and welcome to the Great Legal Mind show at LawWiser. Our guest today is Suhail Nathani, Managing Partner, Economic Laws Practice, or popularly known as ELP. Suhail, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aman.
Thank you so much for taking time out and coming on the show. In fact, there are you see how post COVID, um, you know businesses are trying to recover themselves. What is the kind of current business scenario according to you, and what are the areas that are going to drive the growth in future for India and globally?
So let's talk about India first. Of course, post this whole COVID slowdown, we are now actually entering into a recovery phase. But we are fortunate that because of the budget, we have a little euphoria mixed into the whole equation. So, euphoria and recovery is the phase we are in right now. We have seen various projections on India's growth, including from the World Bank, from the Economic Survey, and yesterday from the Central Bank, RBI, which all three speak of double-digit growth. And that is absolutely critical given that we had double digit slowdown during COVID. We need double digit growth to catch up. I think the government's thrust on infra, on remonetization of assets, will go a long way to build both buoyancy and to use a non-legal or to sort of lubricate the economy, because you need the flow of capital. So I think we are in a very good phase. These core areas, infra, whatever else that the government is going to spend on, will bring liquidity into the economy, which will then spur consumption.
What, according to you, is going to be the timeline for like the double-digit growth to be achieved really? Because there are a lot of sectors which are in distress. I mean, of course, there is a thrust on infrastructure, but I think overall, if you actually look at the economic growth, how long do you think it will be?
So, Aman, it will be sector specific. We are seeing housing already getting a boost because people in COVID began to appreciate the concept of work from home and the need for space. Automobiles have picked up. Other stuff like hospitality, whatever else, will take a little while to come back. And as people get jobs, personal consumption. So take the global example. Apple had its biggest quarter during COVID. And just put it in perspective, $111 billion in sales. That's not a joke. $111 billion is serious cash. Through COVID, they had a record quarter. Now, what will drive this small consumption in India? Of course, no change in tax will go a long way. Creation of jobs will go a long way. Getting small credit flowing will be a big thing. And I think the government has got all the pieces in place. Now, like I said earlier in a budget comment, that this is now up to the consumer and to industry. Government can't do anything else short of printing more notes and driving inflation.
And what about FDI coming into India, and which sectors, and more importantly, what is going to drive the growth of legal industry in the next?
Okay. So very quickly on FDI, look, India will always attract FDI because as a market, we are a desirable market. You have a large consuming population and, more importantly, a large aspiring population. I think the Make in India programs will show that this economy has a lot of ability to absorb whatever is manufactured over here. So I think that's one aspect that we need to be very confident about, that consumption will continue to grow. That will attract FDI. Now, what does the government need to do for FDI? We need two things for FDI, okay? And this is very, very critical. One is certainty in policy. Two is a rule of law. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things here. The largest litigator in the country today is the government. You talk to any foreign audience, they want to know about certainty in tax policies. We have 2 BIT arbitration awards which are floating around, which India has lost. The question here is that how these companies are able to recover or enforce their awards is something that the entire world is watching. So that is one part. About the legal profession, look, we have to be honest about it. The legal profession as a services sector normally grows a couple of points higher than the entire economy. So if the entire economy is growing 10%, for example, services sector should grow between 12 and 15%. I would love to say bring in foreign lawyers and whatever else, but I know that's a controversial position right now. I also have a different view. While I welcome foreign lawyers, and since I started my career, which is more than 2 decades ago, I've been hearing about foreign lawyers coming to India. Career abhi ho raha hai, but we're still hearing about foreign lawyers coming into India. But look, what are foreign clients looking for? They're looking for English speaking, common law educated lawyers who can make sense of rules and regulations around them. I think you have that service in India today. There are many firms who are not only working for clients in India, but they're working for their clients outside of India. Yes, it would help lawyers, it would help people like my firm, me personally, if we had foreign lawyers coming in, but today the policy is merely speculative. So I just want to say that the legal sector should continue to grow. We need to do certain things right, like make litigation more efficient. We need to bring value to clients rather than, become a cost center. So those are things which are already happening in a very fast way.
How do you think litigation finance? I mean, that's, I think, happening now in India more than ever. How do you think that is going to, grow actually and eventually grow, of course?
So, Aman, when we talk about litigation finance, let's go back to old common law. I'm of that vintage where we learned Champati in contracts. And Champati in contracts is you cannot fund anybody else's litigation because you're then making a litigious society. The flip side to this argument is that, look, people who can't afford justice are getting justice through this. I'm not going to get into that controversy right now. But like every private equity opportunity, funding of litigation is another opportunity to arbitrage an inefficient system. So lawyers and law firms need to get paid. Litigants can't pay it. They very often settle, so people buy claims. And if you see the average cost of buying claims, they are about 50 cents on the dollar. Because you buy those, you're factoring in the risk. So when you go in there, the upside potential is tremendous. But in countries like India, gestation period and certainty of recovery is a big issue. So I think it will grow because there is a market imperfection, which is the increasing legal costs and the actual delivery of compensation. And private equity does very well in addressing market imperfection. So I think this is going to be a growing area. And we'll see how it develops in India.
Okay, so now moving on to ELP, what are your big plans now?
We need to be the best service provider in whatever we choose to do. The law is an ocean. We can't do everything. So where we go in to provide services, we need to have the aspiration to be the best in what we do. So if you see, ELP was set up over 2 decades ago on a dual platform of tax and trade. Today, our tax and trade practices are highly ranked, not only in India, but in Asia. We have been representing clients all over the world, and that is something that we have achieved with great hard deal of work and, of course, some level of determination and luck. Now, the same thing we are looking to replicate in other areas. Another very important vertical for us is litigation. Litigation at ELP means most of the matters are argued by our counsel in-house. That is not to say that we don't use senior counsel. Of course, we use senior counsel. We value them, we respect them. The fact of the matter is that there's some matters that do not require that level of seniority, and different tribunals, we have our own people appearing, which I think is very important because then you become better advisors if you've seen the litigation close hand. So litigation is big for us. The infrastructure practice, the SEBI competition. Competition has been very big for us. We've been doing a lot of both behavioral and merger filing. Now, the missing piece, if you will, in the ELP equation is that if you see our peer group, all our firms have larger corporate practices than their other practices. ELP is in this position where our other so-called quote unquote niche practices for other law firms is our largest area of practice.
That's
So
right.
the question here is that how do you bridge to the other side with credibility? And the last word being very important with credibility. So we have client relationships. Question is that, when we walk in with a corporate practice or a different practice, we need to bring that credibility to the table. So that continues to be a work in progress. And the nice thing about our profession is you always keep practicing and everything is a work in progress. So it will continue.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things is that, I think ELP is, one of those, professionally run firms, which is, so either there are family run firms or they're, professionally, I would say, firms which has management, which is full of professionals. So, ELP is one of them. So, what did you think? Did you not create any reservation for your son in your organization?
The reservation actually created for family in ELP was a par. Our first partnership deed said no family in the profession. So when Rohan, who's now a counsel, Rohan Shah and I came together, both of us had family in the firm. His uncle was a lawyer. I was a third generation lawyer. We put there will be no family in the firm in our first partnership deed. Pretty soon, Sujain Talwar, whose father is also a lawyer, joined us and signed into that. Vikram Nankani, who's now a senior counsel, joined into us and signed into that. So that has been a culture at ELP right from the beginning. Look, there are lots of benefits and pros and cons to having a family-run firm. However, we chose the path of doing a non-family and a non-personality-driven firm. It has its own challenges and it has its own rewards. The first challenge is, look, you need to bring people who have a like-minded outlook together. Partnerships are not easy. Partnerships are very demanding, but you need to bring people with a common vision. You don't need to be best friends, but you need to share a vision to where you are all collectively headed professionally. That's why, at ELP, we like to bring in people who share this vision with us. And honestly, that's the way we started the firm. 3 things. No family in the firm, a retirement age on the partnership deed. So we will actually have a retirement age, which will see the exit of partners. And the third thing we did, which was actually the main thing, we didn't name the firm after ourselves. So the moment you name the firm after yourself, then as long as you're alive, everybody thinks, So these are the 3 models we followed. And so far, so good. It stood us in good stead.
Yeah, I think, there are fantastic, success stories already there in the market, for this model, including definitely that of ELP. So that's great. Now, I think, let me ask you a few more questions. I mean, there's a lot of conversation now happening on, how technology is changing the world, and particularly post-COVID, technology has become like really an integral part of, every business. And lawyers have always been, I think, a bit averse to technology. So how are you looking at it now? And it's not just, being on the Zoom, but I think, there's a lot of intervention, there's a lot of legal tech firms coming in, offering interesting solutions to bring efficiencies and all of that. So how do you think that is, going to be, and where ELP is on that?
So, Aman, the thing about technology, and you're right, that lawyers are poor at embracing new technology. But if you keep your client in focus and you see that you need to service your client properly, technology plays a very, very important role. Okay. So I'll give you examples of what is happening, and people talk about AI and people talk about machine learning. I have a different view towards technology. I started my career in a telecom company, so I understand a bit of technology and its absorption, we can't reinvent the wheel. I am not looking or advising anybody to build a bespoke, customized service in house. You have to use pieces that are out there and you have to integrate them very well. So, I'll give you an example. Normally, when you do litigation searches in the country or land searches, you have to physically send somebody, there's whatever else involved, a lot of time. Now, there are search tools that are available. In our due diligence products, we actually tell the client saying that this is an option, we will use this service, we will rely on their report, but we could do this manually, and this is the cost difference. And I'm pleased to tell you that everybody who has had that option from us has always used the automated search option because it's far more efficient, it's far more cost effective, and it really is not that risky as the databases improve. So that's one thing in terms of our own research, in terms of our own appearances, our own management, our customer interfaces. Many law firms, including us, have intranet offerings for clients. Clients need to get alerts in real time. They need to get updates in real time. When we started our career, it was bhejenge, letter bhejenge, your matter was listed at such a day. Then it became fax bhejenge. Then it was office jaake email bhejenge. Nobody waits. The hearing is over. The client wants to be updated what has happened, and that's where we are all headed. But of course, big play on technology at ELB, especially given some of the areas of practice. Tax is huge for us. A lot of tax is getting more and more computer friendly now. Government has announced that they will send you your tax return filled. So we've lost some part, not that we do tax returns, but some part of the business has already been automated and outsourced. So, we'll have interfaces to work on that. So This morning we were talking about digital signatures. Do you want to offer that to clients rather than, everybody coming to the same location? So those are things that constantly remain on our radar and on our table.
Absolutely. So, the fourth industrial revolution is for real, and it is taking away some basic jobs. I mean, the machines are taking away some basic jobs. But I think the great part is that, lawyers use a lot of negotiation skills, a lot of creativity. I think those are the things that are going to remain with humans. So that's a great part about it. Now, I actually have some other questions for you. Okay. So I was actually looking at, some of your pictures when you were, I think, 30-year-old. And and my team asked me this question that, you should ask Suhail this question, that why did he choose to become a lawyer and not model?
Well, A, this is the curse of the internet, and B, it's your charm. But honestly, when I was doing my BCom, the option was to become an actor. I have many friends who become very, very successful actors. But my father actually sat me down and said, you want to pay the bills or you want to do all this? You decide. And I had a deep love for the law. So I pursued that. Though after years of having been in the profession, I still have a plan B profession. And that is not acting, that is actually cooking. So I love to cook.
Good. Because, that was my second question, that if you were to have two careers, so after lawyering, what you would do? So probably, chef is pretty much on the cards.
So, I heard of a lawyer located in some country where he opened a restaurant and he would give you both contract and kebab options. Still remains a dream.
Yeah, so I think, the menu is also going to be much more creative and different for a lawyer who becomes a chef. Yeah. So that's great. Okay, now in fact, I have actually three more questions for you, and which is more rapid questions, which as they are called rapid fire. The question is that if you have organized a family dinner, okay, where all your family members, all your cousins and distant cousins are gathering after a long time and everybody is looking forward to it, and you receive a call from a client saying, Suhail, we got to meet. And you know that this call is not to do with crisis or something. What would you choose?
So, look, if I have to remain active in the profession, I have to focus the client. And that's the work ethic I have been brought up with. I come from a family of lawyers. It's not what your perception is. If the client perceives it's important, you have to be available. And that's the profession we signed up for. I'd love to have my time off. It's very lovely, and it'll be very painful to tell everybody that I have a client emergency, but the client has to be the focus of what you do.
Yeah. And what do you expect then when you are back home?
Nothing that I have not seen before. ये होते रहता है. And that's something that is, the family has begun to well recognize. Well, my father's a lawyer. My son studied to be a lawyer. The fact of the matter is that it is the joys and the hazards of the profession.
So everybody is well conditioned to situations like these.
Even if you don't come from a family of lawyers, whatever you do, Aman, when you're in a professional role, the client has to come first. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a consultant, whatever happens, the client has to come first.
Okay, now my second question, that if you were to invite for a dinner, one-to-one dinner, and you have an option between a politician, a senior politician, and an actress, who would you invite?
Definitely the actress. Definitely the actress.
That's great.
Yeah, because look,
not be any doubt.
let's not mince words. And the reason why I'm saying it is that you want to have conversation, and I don't think many politicians make great conversationalists because they have different takes on it, and they may not always tell you what you want to hear. So it's better to have a light-hearted evening and make the most of that.
So my last question is, in this rapid fire, is that tell me two things that people don't know about you.
Okay, I'll talk about two of my hobbies, which I've been developing and keeping intensely personal over the years. One is I have a great interest in watching two American sports. Maybe it's from my time I was a student over there, but I love to watch both American football and college basketball. Not NBA, but college basketball. This Sunday is the Super Bowl. I'm planning to wake up early and watch that Super Bowl. And two, I have a great love for, Hindustani classical music, more on the Sufi side. So when I was a young lawyer and I was working in the US, Ustad Nusrat Ali Khan was teaching at a particular university. And I called them up and I said, can I audit the course? Because I had graduated and I had a job. And they said, no, we don't have this ability for you to audit the course. And I called them up and I said, can you give me some of his course material at least? I want to understand what goes into his singing, into his interpretation of various Sufi kalam or whatever. And they said, he has no material. He just comes and talks to us.
Yeah.
And of course, that is a genre of music that has I've been very interested in for many, many years.
Yeah,
so I keep nurturing and reading a lot about that.
Because I also heard Zakir Hussain saying that somebody asked him that so do you prepare before getting into a concert? So he says that no, I mean whatever actually comes to my mind, and I think that's divine, and then I just play.
So in lockdown, I paid and watched a documentary on Ustad Zakir Hussain and Niloy, the sitar player. And yes, that is what genius is all about, right? And that's something you can never learn, but it's something you can always appreciate. So I always look for people who transcend their professions and move from, being experts to geniuses. And that's the cusp I try to follow.
Okay, so before I let you go, Suhail, I actually wanted to ask you that, what would you say to young lawyers who are graduating now in very tough and turbulent times? What's your advice to these young lawyers?
Yeah, it is a very difficult phase we are coming out of, but I always have two messages for young lawyers. One is don't lose hope. Future is always bright. Two, remember we are in a knowledge profession. Okay. Yes, you have to have advocacy, you have to have other skills, but at the core of what we do is knowledge. In a desire to build up a resume, we don't go deep enough into the areas we practice in. So I'll give you an example. My uncle, who recently passed away, practiced for 60 or 65 years. And he told me, Suhail, the law is an ocean. You can never get enough of knowledge. So you're always there. You will always have new areas of the law. So, at some point of your career, IBC is important. Something else may become important. You have to be hungry for knowledge. Don't lose that hunger for knowledge, because that is what makes you a lawyer. Your advocacy skills, of course, your writing skills, of course, everything else, but it is all based on your knowledge. Don't compromise that. And of course, keep confident, keep the hope, because there is several opportunities and they all find the right people and the right people find the right opportunities.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation with you, Suhail, and thank you so much for being on the show. And
Thank you, Aman. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
thank you.
All right.